Coming up on The World Today. Germany's health minister says the country is likely to face a shortage of coronavirus vaccines until at least April. Russian activist Alexei Navalny describes his detention as illegal in an appeal hearing via video link. Plus, Pakistan's Supreme Court orders release of 4 men accused of murdering journalist Daniel Pearl in 2002. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shoboale. Germany's health minister has warned that the country is likely to face a shortage of coronavirus vaccines until at least April. The pace of the country's rollout has been criticized and it has failed to meet its own daily target of vaccinations. As a result, the country's vaccine committee says the AstraZeneca's COVID jab should only be given to people aged under 65, citing insufficient data for the effectiveness of the vaccine in those over 65. It comes amid a row between the EU and the vaccine maker, AstraZeneca, over supply shortages. The UK-based company has said production issues at its Europe-based plants mean it will be unable to deliver the promised number of doses to the 27-member bloc. But the EU says the firm must honour its commitment and deliver the jab by diverting stock from the UK. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization is calling for calm and patience while urging governments and manufacturers to work together to addressing the problems in the rollout. Here's more on this and other developments on our COVID-19 Global Update.
The World Health Organization says the vaccine manufacturers are working non-stop to plug shortfalls in supplies to countries struggling to curb the COVID-19 pandemic. The global health body is also urging affected countries not to jostle for deliveries.
A solidarity does not necessarily mean that each country in the world starts exactly at the same moment, right? And it's up to the country then to make the plans. But I also would like to mention here that we don't doubt that the manufacturers and the producers are also working 24/7 to bridge the gap, and that I would remain confident that a delay which we're seeing now is going to be made up by extra production in the near future.
The EU, whose members are far behind Israel, the United Kingdom and the United States in dispensing vaccines, is scrambling to get supplies just as the West's biggest drug makers slow deliveries to the bloc due to production problems. Meanwhile, Germany is preparing entry bans for travelers from Britain, Portugal, Brazil and South Africa to limit the spread of the more contagious variants of the coronavirus raging in these countries. And that's according to the country's interior minister, who was speaking on the fringes of a virtual meeting with his EU counterparts. Belgium has already barred residents from taking vacations abroad until March to fight the spread of the more infectious virus. But other European Union members reject radical measures such as travel or entry bans. In Asia, China's foreign ministry says a team of experts from the World Health Organization have finished their 14-day quarantine in the Chinese city of Wuhan and will carry out their investigation into the origins of the novel coronavirus in accordance with China's pandemic prevention measures. The WHO investigators left their quarantine hotel in Wuhan on Thursday to begin field work 2 weeks after arriving in the Chinese city where the virus emerged in late 2019. Still in Asia, Sri Lanka has received 500,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine donated by India at the Colombo International Airport. The country will begin an inoculation drive on Friday, starting with 6 hospitals in and around the capital, Colombo, and will gradually expand to cover the entire island.
More updates on COVID-19 vaccine rollouts now. South Africa's president and chairperson of the African Union, Cyril Ramaphosa, has appealed to the World Trade Organization to waiver specific trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights obligations related to the prevention and treatment of COVID-19 for a defined period. Addressing the African COVID-19 vaccine financing and deployment strategy webinar, he also appealed to private business sector operators to put their money into the continent's effort to roll out a vaccine program.
It's been a somewhat intriguing journey to this point for South Africa, filled with finger-pointing about delays, debates, miscommunication and questions. But if all goes according to plan as presented by Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize and his advisory committee, the first batch of anti-COVID vaccines will be in South Africa from India on the 1st of February.
1 million doses will leave India on Sunday, the 31st of January 2021, fly via Dubai and land at OR Tambo International Airport on Monday, the 1st of February 2021.
Ahead of the arrival of the much-anticipated COVID-19 vaccines, South Africa's healthcare sector is groaning under the strain of much higher number of confirmed cases in the country. Not only are the numbers much higher than experienced in the first wave of the epidemic in the country, the death toll is even much higher, and the government is worried. From the public to the private healthcare sector, the story or the picture is the same. The second wave of COVID-19 in South Africa has indeed seen figures as high as 21,000 new confirmed cases and over 800 deaths in a day. The daily figures still fluctuate and the pressure remains on the healthcare sector. Gauteng province still ranks as one of the top affected provinces.
I want to appeal to the people of our province, many of whom are returning to work. I want to appeal that let's do all the things that we can to ensure that we can manage where we are now, that is level 3, and ensure we continue to revive the economy. But our facilities have been coming tremendously under pressure.
Dr. Ifeanyi Wosu is a specialist physician at the Louis Pasteur Hospital in Pretoria, South Africa. He painted a picture of how hectic it has been.
There's almost no distinction between the private and the public healthcare in terms of the pressure of the cases and the numbers that we're seeing on a daily basis. Both sectors are quite saturated with patients, to the extent that some hospitals even use the parking lot to assess and treat patients, especially in the public sector. We're not sure whether we're peaking, but it's obvious that this second wave is much higher, much more severe than the first wave. Yes.
On Wednesday, South Africa's Healthcare Products Regulatory Authority, SAPRA, approved the controlled compassionate use of the drug ivermectin for the treatment of COVID-19. Hopefully that, among other efforts, and now the arrival of the AstraZeneca vaccine from the Serum Institute of India next Monday, will bring a semblance of hope that things may get better. From Pretoria, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
In Western Asia, a man has died after protesters, angry with a total coronavirus lockdown and dire economic conditions, clashed with riot police in the Lebanese city of Tripoli for a third consecutive night. 29-year-old Oromad Haiba was among 220 people injured during the unrest. His brother says he had been shot. Witnesses and local media also say that police fired live rounds at protesters. The round-the-clock curfew imposed this month to halt a surge in COVID-19 cases has worsened Lebanon's economic crisis. People are forbidden from leaving their homes unless they are essential workers, and they must rely on deliveries from supermarkets for food. Many have also been left without an income in a country where a third of the workforce is unemployed and a large proportion relies on the informal sector. Away from the COVID-19 pandemic and to other stories now, Russian anti-government activist Alexei Navalny has denounced his detention as illegal in an appeal hearing via video link. A judge heard and then rejected his appeal against detention for 30 days. He was arrested on January 17th for not complying with a suspended sentence. Police have also arrested some of his top aides, including his lawyer and his brother Oleg. The latest arrests are connected with alleged violations by Navalny supporters who rallied in their thousands across Russia last Saturday. VOA correspondent Charles Mains joins us now from Moscow for more on this. Charles, thank you so much for joining us on The World Today.
Good to be with you.
Navalny has been ordered to stay in jail after the violence witnessed last weekend. Are there fears that more pro-Navalny protests could erupt this coming weekend?
They're quite certain to erupt. In fact, Navalny supporters, his team, have announced that they want essentially a new wave of protest on Sunday around noontime here in Moscow, but they'll ripple across the country. If last week was any indication, the strategy seems to be here that they're trying to force the Russian authorities to decide that keeping Alexei Navalny in jail, he's currently faces he's in jail now for 30 days, but he faces the possibility of more prison sentences that could keep him in jail for several years if they go through with convictions. The idea here is to pressure the authorities to consider that maybe it's more difficult to keep Alexei Navalny in jail than out of jail. So it's a pressure tactic from the opposition. We'll have to see if it works.
Yeah, police have also arrested some of Navalny's top aides in connection with the weekend rally, including his brother. What's the update on that end?
Well, we've seen again, as you know, there have been police searches, arrests, detentions of essentially Navalny's entire team. Also, a criminal case has been launched against his chief of staff, who is actually located in Europe at this point. And all of this is designed, according to Navalny, to scare other people from coming out on Sunday. Certainly, this is the same tactic, frankly, we saw last week. Many of these same people were detained for 48 hours or several days before the Saturday protests we saw, where we had tens of thousands take to the streets. So it doesn't seem to have too much of an impact at this point in terms of kind of cutting off the leadership, so to speak, of Navalny's movement. It seems quite organic from what I've seen so far, and we'll just have to see if Russians were intimidated. We had 4,000 arrests nationally on Saturday. That's the final total count from independent monitoring groups here from those Saturday protests a week ago. We'll have to see if the same authorities certainly are promising that they call this next upcoming action also illegal. So I suspect we'll see hundreds, if not thousands, of more arrests coming this weekend.
This is all coming after Navalny spent months recovering from the nerve agent attack, which nearly killed him and for which he blamed agents of President Putin. And then there's been calls by foreign leaders for an investigation into this. The Kremlin has repeatedly denied any involvement, but has there been any form of investigation so far?
Well, the Russian government version here is that no crime was ever proven. They argue, for example, they floated various theories that perhaps Navalny was poisoned while he was in Germany. They found no evidence of this Novichok, this Soviet-era nerve agent, that subsequent tests done by German, Swedish, French, and international authorities have all discovered. So their version here, and according to the Russian government, is there's nothing to investigate, and pressure tactics haven't seemed to work. Of course, this international outrage we've heard from Europe, from the United States, from other countries, seems not to have had much effect thus far. But part of the issue here is that Russia it has difficult relations with many of these Western countries, including the United States. So it seems as though it doesn't seem like to respond at this point to a lot of pressure from Washington, even with this new administration we see under Joseph Biden.
All right then, Charles, a lot to keep our eyes on. Thank you so much for joining us on The World Today.
Good to be with you.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says that the United States is deeply concerned about detained Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny and is considering actions in response to his detention in Russia. In his first press briefing after being sworn in, Mr. Blinken says that the Biden administration is reviewing how to respond to actions by Russia, including the alleged use of chemical weapons in an attack on Navalny, the SolarWinds cyber attack, reports of bounties on American forces and interference in U.S. elections. Also speaking on diplomatic relations, Blinken adds that it is in the interest of the United States to cooperate with China on issues such as climate change, though that fit within the larger context of areas of concern that Washington has with China.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. As I say, we have a deep concern for Mr. Navalny's safety and security. And the larger point is that his voice is the voice of many, many, many Russians, and it should be heard, not muzzled. And increasingly, that relationship has some adversarial aspects to it. It has competitive ones, and it also still has cooperative ones. And the cooperative ones are in areas where it's in our mutual interest to try to work together, including manifestly on climate, where it's in the interest of China and the interest of the United States and the interest of countries around the world to make concrete progress in combating global warming. And so,
Foreign Service and people working in this building.
Still on U.S. diplomatic relations, the Chinese ambassador to the United States says that the China-U.S. ties are standing at a critical juncture and hopes the U.S. can steer clear of the previous administration's policies and practices against China. Ambassador Tian says he anticipates a return to normalcy in bilateral relations through a return to mutual trust.
Deny these basic facts. It has been proved time and again that when China and the United States cooperate, we can get things done.
Now, Pakistan's Supreme Court has ordered the release of an Islamist convicted of beheading U.S. journalist Daniel Pearl, a decision that has left his family in complete shock, according to the lawyers. Ahmed Omar Sahid Sheikh, who was the main suspect in the 2002 kidnapping and murder of Wall Street journalist Pearl, was acquitted by a panel of 3 judges. 38-year-old Pearl was investigating Islamist militants in Karachi after the September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States when he was kidnapped. His case grabbed headlines globally after a video of his beheading emerged weeks after he was kidnapped.
The province of Sindh filed petitions in the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and Ahmed Omar Saeed Sheikh also filed his petition seeking that the judgment of the Sindh High Court be set aside because he has no role even in the kidnapping of Daniel Pearl. All these matters were heard week after week and day after day, and today the judgment has been announced and it has been held that appeals filed by the province of Sindh stand dismissed. All appeals.
A court in Frankfurt has jailed a far-right sympathizer for life for murdering a prominent pro-migrant politician in his garden in 2019. Walter Lubke, a regional Christian Democrat governor, was shot in the head at close range. He was 65 years old. 47-year-old Stefan Ernest admitted firing the shot at Lubke's home. It was the first far-right political assassination in post-war Germany. A second man, identified only as Marcus H., got an 18-month suspended jail term. Both defendants have a far-right background, and prosecutors say the motive for the murder was their political extremism. New Zealand will decarbonize its public buses by 2035 and introduce a law this year to import clean cars to cut emissions and fuel costs. That's according to Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who made this revelation as New Zealand pushes for a carbon neutral target by 2050. She says the government will also mandate lower emitting biofuels across its transport sector and buy only zero emissions public transport buses from 2025.
But I still...
And mountain biker Danny McAskill is used to traveling the world to find new sources of adrenaline rushes, but confined in the UK because of the COVID-19 pandemic, he discovered thrills much closer to home when he took on soaring peaks at picturesque Scottish Island. Towering some 610 metres above the Isle of Skye's black slabs are angled between 40 and 60 degrees, providing McAskill with one of the hardest challenges and ascents of his riding career. An Isle of Skye native, the 35-year-old has shot to fame on social media after filming a string of seemingly impossible stunts on his mountain bike. Definitely thrilling. And finally on the program, the United States has witnessed a first-of-its-kind innovation in the country, a vending machine that offers COVID-19 home test kits to the public. Wellness for Humanity unveiled the vending machine as its new flagship wellness location in New York City on Tuesday.
What I did get is this amazing...
The vending machine is contactless and the tests are self-administered.
It's going to take about 15 to 20 seconds to trigger the test.
According to the company in charge, the RT-PCR saliva test is 99% accurate and the rapid antigen test is 97.4% accurate.
Inside there, you just simply need a scoop of saliva to be able to...
The tests cost around $119 and can be covered by insurance.
I just purchased my test online. What I did get is this amazing little barcode, which is all I need to be able to simply plug it in. As soon as you get to the machine, it will activate the barcode. With the activation, it's going to take about 15 to 20 seconds to trigger the test. It looks just like this. This is our PCR saliva. And essentially, as soon as you get home, you would open this. Inside there, you just simply need a scoop of saliva to be able to have the results. It comes with a shipping label back, so all you have to do is just drop it off at your local FedEx and you're good to go. Results take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours, and something that we also will have in the future is expedited results, so that way travelers or people in immediate need can benefit from it.
Wellness for Humanity says the goal of the automated vending machine is to give anyone who needs a test access to one.
Our whole solution with these machines is that we bring them into centralized locations, such as subways, grocery stores, shopping malls, or airports. And you could be walking by and you don't have to wait long lines. Our turnarounds are about 24 hours to 48 hours.
Similar vending machines have been installed in Hong Kong and in the UK, and earlier this month, University of California, San Diego unveiled vending machines that offer tests for COVID-19. But the San Diego tests are only for students, not the general public.
You just simply need a scoop of saliva to be able to...
Welcome to the new normal. And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tenyola Shiboale. Have a lovely weekend.